Hey folks, welcome back to Ontario here. I didn't actually do much of a video on this riding tractor because I really don't find it very interesting. It's another like a 94 white or MTD, but this one's a hydro, and I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to be getting rid of my Fords here anyway. This one's not ready to cut grass yet, so I thought, well, I'll just get a cheap lawnmower, 70 bucks off the internet here. Says it needs a belt, and I talked to the guy. Oh yeah, the engine runs good, and yeah, I just lost a belt, so I'll put a belt on it for 70 bucks and I'll just cut grass. Well, yeah, as will happen, I don't think Buddy was being completely honest, because as you see, I got the rear end out. There it was no function to the hydrostatic rear end, and that's why I bought this thing. I figured it'd be kind of cool to not shift gears and use a clunky old transmission. I'll go modern and go hydro. So I noticed that on the pan that's missing right now, and I downloaded a manual on this, there's a little knob around here that's supposed to release the transaxle so that it can be pushed by hand and rolled around. Well, it was missing. And so, of course, there's really nothing I can do but take the transaxle out and see what's going on. The first thing you'll see is there's a blade missing off the fan, but I'm really sure that's not going to be an issue. I'm sure it doesn't spin up so fast that that's going to cause a balance problem. So, I didn't know how this thing works. I have no idea about hydros. This is my first one. So, the first thing I looked is for, you know, the stains of a oil leak all over the place, and really, there's nothing there. There's nothing wet on it. It's dry. But I got looking and see how it functions, and you know, I would just roll the fan by hand here, and there was nothing. But then I read somewhere something about a pressure release valve, and that's what that valve was that I was pointing up on the tractor there that was missing. And then there was, oh, let's see if I can find it, because I got a heck of a mess on the floor here. This was a much more difficult transaxle to remove than out of the Fords than the Peerless 5-speeds. Yeah, these manual 5-speeds were really quite easy to pull out. Just pull the wheels off. Well, these wheels can't even come off. They're seized on. I don't know how to get them off. So I just took the whole thing out in a unit. I was looking for that part. It exists. It exists. What's that? That's a piece of hose. It was leaking a little bit on this hydraulic line, so there was no clamp on it. So I could feel it was really rough, so I just cut the rough part off and put a hose clamp on it this time. So that's what that mess is. But don't tell me I lost that bit. I mean, I didn't lose it. It's here. I don't know where I put it. But what it does, it's a little tab that goes. Alright, so just so you can see, this is the top of the transaxle. If you go right down in between where the two parts where the axle housing mates up to the pump assembly, I'll call it, there's a button down here. Well, this button was pushed all the way in, and it was stuck in. I didn't even know what that was because I've never seen it before. You can see the button on the end of that bolt, right? So, or nut. So, there it is right there. So this big old tab gets bolted down in here, and oops, wrong way over. Gets bolted to the housing here, and you'll see the tab down there hits on that button. So when linkage is hooked up to it and pushes on that, it pushes that button in, which causes the transaxle axle to freewheel. So you can push it around the yard by hand with the motor not running. You let go of that lever, and it's supposed to release that button, and the button comes out and locks the transaxle. So now I sprayed a little. Well, actually, what I had to do is loosen this nut, and I was going to try to turn it right out so I could see what the assembly all is in there, and maybe clean it up. But you know, design flaw again. The nut only comes out and hits this housing. The whole thing won't come out. I'm not going to pull the whole thing apart. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that will come out, but I don't really need to now because I sprayed it with PB Blaster, and now it's working. All right, so now the button's working. It comes out fine on its own, and once I push that in, I can't do it now, I turn the fan with my other hand and the wheel started turning. So, I mean, I didn't push it in, I let it out. And so now, I guess I can show you, I turn it and the wheels are going. What I was really doing is just checking to see if this rear end is fine before I go and spend, I don't know, 30 or 50 bucks on a drive belt from the engine to the back. So I think it's worth risking now. I mean, it is turning. There's no way you can service that thing in the tractor, though. I don't think there's any way to get up underneath it. I've got it on a chain, which is up to my beam on a chain fall. But even straight up, I had to make sure that the battery didn't flop over on the motor. So I just strapped the battery up, and then the float bowl started to overflow. So I got a little gas situation underneath. Check out the automotive exhaust system Buddy put on. Yeah, big old big honking muffler on the thing, front to back pretty much, and then fabbed in a flexible pipe and welded this and modded that and slapped it down onto the engine in there, and actually it sounds pretty cool. It's still, it's a post twin Briggs, 18 horse, still a little noisy up here, all engine noise, but that exhaust is really quiet out the back. You probably can't tell on a handy cam here, but there's really no noise coming out the back. That's kind of cool. It'd be cool if it was like a twin exhaust, dual exhaust, one on both sides. That would be neat. Hopefully it doesn't interfere with the deck. I haven't tried to put the deck on yet, which it came with. So again, for 70 bucks, and I think what Buddy did, I think there's a situation here where, what have I done here? I guess I blew a bunch of crap all over it when I started the tractor. I think probably Buddy, I'm not sure if this broken belt was really the issue, or if he, figured the transmission was shot, and so he just pulled the belt off. I'll get a few bucks off the internet here. I'd like to trust people, but you don't know what you're getting. You don't know who you're talking to. Seemed pleasant and all, but I think he thought that transaxle was shot. And once I got in there and realized that the relief button was jammed in the freewheel position, I got it all sprayed down and freed up. It's working out, and now the wheels are rolling. So hopefully that's it. Simple fix. I am going to change the fluid. I know a lot of these things. I took a look on the inner tube there, and yeah, a lot of people can't service their hydros. This one you can. This is all complicated. I probably should have taken some pictures of this thing coming apart, because now I got all kinds of nuts and bolts and things spread around, and different parts hanging off the bottom. I had to refigure out, and yeah, I just made myself a mess. I honestly thought this thing was broken, so I thought all I was going to do is pull the motor out of this and scrap it. But now all of a sudden, it's worth putting that belt on, buying a belt, putting it on, and trying this thing out. I don't even like it really, but maybe I'll like the way it cuts. So, and we'll be friends. It is a big tractor. It feels big when you're on it. It's actually kind of cool, I suppose. It'll grow on me, probably. We'll see. Alright, something interesting happened already. I flipped it over and pulled the fill plug and flipped it over and dumped it into that pan, and man, is it junk. There is so much crap in here. This is, I think there's pretty sure there's more water in there than oil, but I've never seen anything like this before. This is not cool at all. And then so I better stick that back in. It's still dripping, it's still open. So then I realized, oh yeah, I forgot there's an oil filter on the bottom. which is now on the top because it's upside down. But so I pulled that off, and I don't have one. I'm gonna have to get one, but probably I could have just changed the oil by pulling this off. That's just not even cool. There's water coming out of the filter. That's just water with a little bit of oil in it. So I mean, I got to put it back on for now. I'll let it drain. I may actually end up changing this oil a couple of times because it's just that bad. It's probably never been changed. Of course, I'll have to look up how to drain it because when it's in the tractor, because this is the bottom we're looking at now, and I don't see any drain plugs. So it might be enough just to remove the filter. I don't know if this is going to help me at all. I'm trying to read it on the screen, but I don't have my glasses on. So Hydro Gear, Sullivan, Illinois, and of course there's a barcode that maybe I can do something with. So folks, my manual doesn't actually discuss the pump. The pump is a totally separate unit from the transaxle. It discusses putting 2050 60 ounces in there. I'm actually going to pull this plug. In the manual the line is only like 3 inches long, but this one's like 72 inches long. So I'm going to get a funnel and put and then there's a plug on the side, a level plug here. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to pop that guy out. I think it said something about a 1/4 inch Allen head, and when she starts flowing out of that, then the transaxle is full, and then I think hydraulic fluid in the pump reservoir, there's no overflow side, so I think I'm just going to not fill it, but it's going to be, I think maybe someone said a 1/2 inch from the top, so that's what I'm going to do now. So what I put in the rear diff is 20W50, my good Harley Davidson oil. That's all I had on hand, so that's what's in it. And I filled it up until it was leaking out the level hole on the side by the brakes, and it was a lot more than 1/2 liter. I'm pretty sure I put more than 1 liter in. I ended up going to my other jug and just using that. And then I took the cap off the pump reservoir here and threw in a whole whack of hydraulic oil until it was at the top, and then I spun the fan by hand until it started building pressure. I took a look at the level and it had dropped, so I topped it off again, left a little air gap at the top before I put the cap back on, and I think it's tight. I better double check. And I spin it now, and definitely these wheels are turning. Oh yeah, it's wanting to walk here. And oh, I kind of maybe pushed it a little too much. It fell off its block. I'll just adjust that here and put it under the filter. Alright, so I do have to get a new filter yet, and I'm going to change the oil again once the filter's off, and this thing then should be flushed out. I've now drained the pump twice and refilled it with clean hydraulic oil, and I've dumped the oil out of the the gear housing twice. It's going to end up being 3 times by the time I'm done, but it just has to be because it was disgusting. I think I saved the rear end though. I think it's going to work fine. It feels really, I mean, look at this. Look at this. This is what this thing was running on. People, just change your oil. I know you get the idea that these aren't serviceable. It says, oh yeah, they go online and say, oh no, hydros aren't serviceable. Well, you know what? Yes, they are. You can change the oil. In fact, it says so right in the manual. Change it. I forget how often. 200 hours, I think it is. Probably got more like 2,000 hours on this one. Anyway, I'm looking forward to putting this back in and seeing how she runs, because I'm thinking pretty good, I bet. Pretty good. So, like an idiot, I kind of forgot to film the removal process on this transaxle. So I'm going to have to just wing it, and hopefully I don't have any nuts and bolts left over. We'll see. Okay, it's back on the ground and it's all back together. As best I can tell, I didn't miss any parts. I did put a belt in it. I went up to Tractor Supply and got a $17 half-inch by 74-inch belt. Alright, I'm not splurging for the $60, $70 MTD belt. Hell with that. So, I'm not real familiar with hydrostatic drives, so this will be my first time. So let's give her a whirl. So $70 for the tractor, a bunch of troubleshooting, and a $17 belt. I won't put the deck on until I confirm this thing works.
Glad they put the pinholes on the inside where you can't see them. That was smart. But just feel around, it'll go in. Imagine this is for the front. There we go. on.
Let's give her a whirl. I should mention that I do have the plate, the console plate, or the tunnel plate. It's just being held in by 2 screws, easy access, because the hydrostatic lockout knob is missing, so I'm going to have to rig up some linkage for that or pick one up from a salvage yard. In the meantime, I would just take those 2 screws out, reach my hand back in, and I can actually push the little release valve by hand if I need to roll it around somewhere. But it looks complete with that on. As long as it's running, I don't need to worry about it. That's only if it's not running and I need to roll it by hand. Alright, she's done. Oh yeah, I also gotta, obviously I gotta get covers for the deck. I'm from the 70s where safety was kind of safety third thing, but that's pretty dangerous, and sticks and things can get all up in there and can wreck my belt or my pant leg. or many different things that can wreck.
I still think that's pretty cool having that big exhaust system on this thing. That's pretty neat.
Alright, and if the engine ever blows up on me, I'm going to pull this 16 horse opposed Briggs out of this old Ford. Everything else has been taken off of this thing for that Ford, but that Ford's sold as of now. Buddy's coming to get it. So this is left over. I'm going to pull that motor, put it on a shelf, and it's actually a good running motor. I know the tractor's ratty, but the motor's actually a good running motor. The starter just kind of lost a piece off the top and I couldn't figure it out, and I just sort of walked away. But pretty sure it's the same starter in the white, so that won't be a problem. I'll just get another starter if I need to. But there we go. Hell yeah, getting the garage cleaned up. Gonna get that motor out, get that one gone, get this one gone tonight, and that one is now the garage tractor. So, and then I'll get over to these in time. They're coming up next too. All right, cheers.